Imagine discovering a secret that has been whispered through the ages by philosophers, saints, and sages alike. From the inscriptions at the Temple of Apollo at Delphi to the sacred texts of the Upanishads, the message is clear. Know thyself. Join me as we delve into why understanding your truest self is not just ancient wisdom, but the cornerstone of unlocking your full potential in your life. Knowing thyself has been a crucial piece of activating human potential since the beginning of recorded time. Back in the Vedas, when Sanskrit was carved by ancient saints and rishis, carved 3,500 to 3,800 years ago. For thousands upon thousands of years, self-knowledge has sequestered itself through many ancient philosophies and religious texts. Today, I'm going to speak about a major principle and tenet of full potential living, knowing thyself. Hello and welcome to the Full Potential Living podcast, where my mission is to live my fullest potential life and help millions of others do the same. This podcast is made for the self-actualizing individual, someone who isn't willing to settle for anything but reaching their highest potential in life. This podcast attracts highly spiritual individuals, dreamers, visionaries, athletes, high performers, and anyone interested in living their fullest potential in this lifetime. Right now, I'm doing a 30-day challenge where every weekday at 7 a.m. Eastern, I will be releasing an episode to start your day with activating your highest potential in life. So it is Tuesday, May 21st. Hope you are starting your day or the middle of your day or ending your day right whenever you're listening to this, my friend. And I hope that you walk away with some valuable insights from the research I've done here and also my own story. And specifically, I'm going to attempt to do something a little different. I will attempt to provide a coherent and chronological narrative for connecting the wisdom of five different ancient philosophies or religious texts to contemporary ideas on the vital and ancient concept of knowing thyself, self-knowledge, one of the key tenets of a full potential life. So guys, I'll be connecting the through line from five different ancient philosophies, different religions, different philosophies, connecting those today to the modern day, going back 3,800 years ago to check in on when and how this concept of self-knowledge, of knowing thyself, was created and was developed through different philosophical ideals and ancient religious text. Because we know this is a huge part of living your best life. You have to know yourself in order for you to activate your highest potential. I know for me personally, my journey of knowing thyself, I mean, it's always been a journey, but it was really turned around in 2018 when I went to India. And I spent 2 months learning about the Upanishads, learning about ancient yogic philosophies, learning what yoga really was from the Eastern perspective and the deep philosophical knowledge there. It was a turning point in my life. And I hope to share with you guys today not only these different philosophies, but also how especially the Hindu philosophy really shifted and changed my life so that you guys can understand the true power of knowing thyself. It's always a continuous journey, but I just want to share with you guys my story along with these different ancient philosophies. So let's get into it. The Vedas go back 3,200 to 3,500 years ago. Nearly 4,000 years ago. I've also seen texts that say 3,800 years ago. Anyway, in that range, just under 4,000 years, the Upanishads were actually a extension of the Vedas and were actually known to be 2,500 to 2,800 years ago. Starting with Hindu philosophy, the Vedas, the Upanishads. Well, let's talk about the Upanishads in the concept of knowing thyself. So looking at 800 to 400 BCE, just under 3,000 years ago, the Upanishads, these ancient Indian texts, are an extension of the philosophical foundation of Hinduism. They focus extensively on self-knowledge and the realization of the inner self, or Atman. The phrase tat tavam asi, which I hope I did not butcher. If I did, so what? That thou art is the translation. From the Chandogya Upanishad, indicates the essential unity between the individual self and the universal consciousness, Brahman. Self-knowledge is seen as the path to liberation. I remember them in India always, for some reason, that word just kept popping up. The universal consciousness. They would always say, Brahman, Brahman, and Atman. I remember those words. They ring a bell. That self-knowledge is really seen as the path to liberation. And if you look back in the Upanishads, moksha is like the fourth component of living. It's essentially like liberation. It is the path to liberation, the highest form of human potential. Activating our highest consciousness is moksha. It was like the fourth piece. And so you can see in the Upanishads, way back, that self-knowledge was literally the path to liberation. It's literally the path. Number 2, ancient Greek philosophy. 5th century, this dates back to 5th century BCE. The Oracle of Delphi in Socratic philosophy. The phrase, know thyself, was inscribed at the temple of Apollo at Delphi. It was a reminder of human limitations or ignorances, you might say, and the importance of self-awareness. Through Plato's dialogues, Socrates emphasized self-knowledge. Socrates famously stated, "The unexamined life is not worth living," highlighting that self-examination and understanding one's true nature and purpose are essential for a virtuous and fulfilling life. The unexamined life, just hear that again, the unexamined life is not worth living. So if you are finding yourself or witnessing or seeing yourself not examining or not taking the time to reflect on who you are, what you really want out of life, what would be your legacy, or what will be the impact you have on others? It may be time to look a little deeper within, to say, am I really fully examining who I am? Am I going deep enough to really know myself so that I activate my fullest potential? Because I remember in one of the previous episodes with Jay Jackson, current Major League Baseball player for the Minnesota Twins. He's a 17-year journeyman. You can go back and listen to that episode before his 30-day challenge. I thought it was really interesting because he talked about one of his main points in the whole podcast was that what he noticed about people that became successful, that were really successful and fulfilled in life, is that they knew themselves earlier on than other people. It's like they knew themselves earlier. And I find that fascinating because really, like, the unexamined life isn't worth living. It's not worth living. Just going through the motions, just allowing other people to dictate your life and not examining your own life and your own self, it's a superficial life, guys. This is part of do not settle. Do not settle means that you're not settling to other people's other people's ideals of who and what you should be in life. So the examined life, the self-examination, is to know your true self and be the best and truest version of who you are. Let's move to number 3, Chinese philosophy. The source here is Confucianism and Taoism. Going back 6th to 5th century BCE, Confucius speaks about self-cultivation and introspection. He states, by 3 methods we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is the noblest. Second, by imitation, which is the easiest, imitating others. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest or the hardest. Reflection involves deep self-examination and understanding of one's actions and motivations. So by knowing thyself, the noblest of the ways to gain wisdom is self-reflection and understanding of one's actions and motivations. In Taoism, the Tao Te Ching emphasizes harmony with the Tao, the way. And I remember sitting in India, in Rishikesh, India. It was called the Beatles Cafe. Speaking of the way, I remember sitting up over this river with a couple of my friends that I had met in India, and up over the Ganga River. And I'm going to put a picture in this podcast because there's a picture of when my life changed, when my own life, by knowing thyself, my own life really, really took a different turn. After being an athlete for 20 years, I then traveled the world, and one of those places was India. I remember jumping in the Ganges, in the Ganga River, Mother Ganga. It's in northern India, so it was a very spiritual experience. I remember jumping in this turquoise, clear, beautiful mountain water. And when I came out, I'm going to put this picture in this podcast. When I came out, I just remember screaming and just feeling like I was alive. Like, ah! Like, check out this picture. I had a turning point. And I remember a couple, like, on that trip as well, we were sitting at this Beatles Cafe, which is like this famous Beatles Cafe in Rishikesh that, like, is literally on a cliff overlooking this huge, wide river, the Ganga River, turquoise, all these big boulders on the side of the river. And I just remember, like, looking at, someone was talking about how, like, we're supposed to go with the way of life. We're supposed to move and allow life, to be in the present moment and to allow life to happen, to surrender. And it reminded me, most of us fight our way through life. Most of us are not swimming or floating downstream. We're actually swimming upstream. We're swimming away from where the current flows. We're swimming against our true nature. If that's you, listen to that. We're swimming against our true nature most of our lives because We fear and we let our fears get in the way. We let the fear of rejection stop us from self-expression. We let the fear of rejection stop us from expressing ourselves fully. We let the fear of failure stop us from chasing our dreams, starting businesses, changing jobs, going for that conversation when you see somebody in a public place. We stop ourselves. We swim upstream and choose opportunities that aren't really true and the best for us. And so I want to encourage you, like the Tao Te Ching, to really allow more. Allow yourself to be in harmony with who you are. Allow yourself to float and swim downstream, meaning just be yourself. Be all of who you are, every piece of who you are, and allow that to shine to the world. Allow that to be the person you are. Because like Michael Beckwith said, the world needs people to come alive. So search for things that make you come alive. Be the person that makes you come alive. And this happens by knowing thyself. By knowing thyself, you can then be thy fullest version of thyself. Another one for you from the Tao Te Ching. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. So knowing and mastering your true power, your true self, is the highest power, the highest activation of human potential. Knowing yourself is the truest wisdom. Let's move on to number 4. Western religious thought. That's right. The 4th to 5th century CE. This is CE Common Era. Christian mysticism. St. Augustine, in his work Confessions, St. Augustine of Hippo writes about his journey of self-knowledge and understanding God. Men go abroad to wonder at the heights of mountains, at the huge waves of the sea, at the long courses of rivers, at the vast compass of the ocean, at the circular motions of the stars. Yet they pass by themselves without wondering. Augustine highlights the importance of introspection and self-awareness and spiritual enlightenment and divine understanding. Even in Western religion, in Christian mysticism, as we can see here, in his work Confessions, they talk about divine union is knowing thyself, is self-awareness. Number 5, Islamic philosophy. 13th century CE. The source of this? Sufism. Rumi, the 13th century Sufi mystic, I'm not going to say this right, Jalaluddin Rumi, often wrote about self-knowledge in his poetry. In his Masnavi, he states, "Whoever travels without a guide needs 200 years for a 2-day journey. This metaphorical guide is self-knowledge," which Rumi sees as essential for spiritual awakening and understanding the divine within you. In other words, without this metaphorical guide of self-knowledge, Rumi states that a 2-day journey will take 200 years. For those of you out there that believe in past lives, imagine how many lives you would have had to have lived so that you could really know thyself. Imagine that. So if you get to know yourself in this lifetime, it allows you to activate the highest and truest version of who you are. It's the beginning. It's the start. It's the steps towards activating that, opening that door to your full potential. Know yourself. Sit down. Create a vision for your future. Create a life that you'd be proud of. Know yourself and then activate that in the world. I'm going to conclude with a few questions to ask yourself. After listening to this podcast and maybe reflecting on your own life, what does knowing thyself mean to you? And how can you get to know thyself a little bit more? Does that include 5 minutes of morning meditation? Going to that yoga class that you've been wanting to attend? Or some form of creative outlet? Maybe it's boxing. Maybe it's karate. Maybe it's art. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's journaling. What's the creative outlet that allows you, that you can do on a day-to-day basis, that allows you to know yourself better so that you can activate a higher version of yourself continuously? Because when you get to know yourself a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, you can continuously act in alignment with the truest and best of who you are. So know yourself a little bit more and consciously create the best version of who you are. Thank you guys so much. That's going to do it for today. Stay tuned every day at 7 a.m. for this 30-day challenge to start your day right by activating your full potential in life and remembering who you truly are. Every weekday at 7 a.m., this 30-day challenge will help you activate your life, your full potential life. I'll continue to talk about what full potential living is, the tenets, the philosophies, and different topics related to full potential living. So I'm going to leave you with this question. What did you love about this podcast? What is your takeaway? What is something that you can take that allows you to live a better life today? And if this resonated with you, please remember to tap that like button, hit that like button, subscribe, leave a 5-star review on Spotify, and share this with one person that these words might help today. Or share it with a community. Share it with a group of people that might really enjoy this topic. I love you all, and do not settle. Full potential or nothing. I will see you tomorrow in day 7. You have a great day. Peace.